everyone, welcome back to this tutorials. Today we'll address 2 points. We'll finish few things which we haven't not talked last lesson around the UI, and then we go to finalize our high score. I wanted to make a few points here. First about UI. When I done last tutorial, I understood that UI user experience will be very unique per game or per style you're creating. So instead of me going even deeper to that that path of showing how to build UI, and especially when using UI toolkit, which one is new to me, I think I'll just leave UI creation here for your for you, because it could be you using a Unity style UI toolkit, and that's also very flexible to work towards. I'm just literally putting myself as a challenge to learn a new UI toolkit. And yeah, I don't think so we need to even to go deeper, and because this tutorials or this journey we're going is actually to create a game as a template, and stylizing and creating some unique mechanics. It actually really depends on your game style. Okay, so first things first. As you can see now in a game, we can't see our menu, what we created, and the reason is because first of all, we don't even have a scene where we put our main menu, because this is what we build is a screen the player will see after launching the game. So and this is where we play the game. So if we go into our scenes, we can see it's a game normal, and you can actually we can create a bit heavy ball, speed run, etc. So different modes you can create here. But also what we need to create is a new scene. Here is it, and let's call menu main underscore menu. Okay, and let's open that one. In our main menu, we have a camera. Okay, I really would like to change a camera into just dark, and here we need to create a empty game object like last time. Creating and just called a manager. Okay, and under the manager, let's create another, and let's call UI as a child. Okay, let's make it everything in 0, 0, 0, 0, and UI to be 0, 0, 0. Main camera also could be Okay, so under UI, actually, if we wanted to see our new UI toolkit, we need to do a few things. And scene, let's have a see. Yeah, here it is. So it's two things. If you created in an old style just by adding canvas and adding what's it called? What is it called? Canvas, and then you have a panel. That's one. Yeah. So you adding a canvas, when you're adding the panels and all that stuff, it's all acceptable. But like I said, I choose this time to create. This is by the way, first game I'm creating with UI toolkit. And to see our UI toolkit, you need to add. It's called UI document. Inside an UI document, we need two things. First of all, we need the panel settings, and we don't have any panel settings. And then we need a source asset, and source asset we have a main menu. That's easy. Okay, main menu. Now panel settings. Let's go back to our UI, right click and create UI toolkit, and here panel settings. Here it is. Let's say default. Okay, so we just created a panel settings. In here we want to few things. First of all, we wanted to scale with screen size. So what that means, if our screen is what's it called, narrowed, or um, what's it called, taller, etc., or shorter, depending what phone the user will be using, you want to scale all your UI together. And if from last lesson, the power of flex is allowing to define how much percentage each thing will be scaling to, to fill the screen, etc., etc. By default, definitely we can use a x. Let me think. X is this way, so we want to use this times this. Is that correct? Let me check in my. Yes, correct. That's good. So this is what we want to scale up. And let's go back to our UI. Now, if you press this circle in the corner for panel settings, now we have a default panel settings. So yeah, default panels. If we go in the game screen, we should just see this. Okay, so very interesting stuff. To actually the menu to appear on the screen, we need to hit at least once a play. And after we hit a play button, apparently everything appears on the screen. I was wondering why we can't see our menus. Okay, so after that, we need to make sure that we hit File, Build Settings, and here we don't have a scenes in build. So we want to make sure if we open our scenes, we drag in order how we want the game will open. So we want main menu to be a first. So let's remove this one. So main menu is the first scene, and we wanted to open a game normal. The sequence after the main menu is not how to say, it's not necessary, because from main menu it can go in a game normal, can go game normal 2, normal 3, etc., or can go in another scene where we have settings maybe, or anything else, or maybe I wanted to purchase something and it could pop up in Google Play Store, etc. So the most important is the first scene, and from first scene we will navigate between other scenes as long as they are included in this list. Okay, so we've done this. We've done screen resolution. Yep, and one more thing. In UI Builder, if you're following to do a UI toolkit, yeah, we've done a high score under flex. Sorry, under size, we've done 40%. And we want to change this one to 775 pixels. Yeah, it looks the same, but what I find to testing on different phones, that 40% is actually, it could be actually extending this table. And instead of we changing the table size, let's extend and share other locations. Okay, and yeah, looks like that is all the changes. Don't forget to save. You can see you could let's change anything else. So grow 1, yeah, and you can see a small star above a tab of UI Builder. If it doesn't say it was changed back to 0, yeah, you still can see stars. So you need to hold the mouse in the middle of that one and Control S. So if your mouse is outside of UI Builder and you Control S, it's saving Unity, not UI Builder. If you hit play, the UI Builder doesn't save. If you hit Control Build for Control B shortcut, UI Builder is not saving. You need to specifically go in UI Builder and press Control S. You can also do here save under File. Okay, so after we make changes of UI, and again repeating more time, UI is very unique per game. I don't want to even go any deeper about stylizing or building this one, because you can possibly even using totally different. But what we will be addressing is we'll be addressing a mechanics. We will addressing functionality of calling buttons. When you press the buttons, you call the different functionality. We'll be addressing quite a lot of high score, and the next tutorial will start addressing the ads at the bottom. One of the things about high scores, even the gamers, they not fully understand sometimes how simple things like high scores could be a very complex thing. It's not only about storing the data safely, so it cannot be edited or cannot be modified as a file, and that's corrupt your game. That's why we need to store all the data safely. Most efficient way, just go in binary. And another thing is mechanics like a new score comes in, and if a new score takes a 6th place, and you need to find that is 6th place. After that, you find the 6th place. You're not deleting the 6th place and replacing that one with that new score. What you actually need to do, you need to take the 6th place to move to 7th, and the 7th to move to the 8th, and etc, etc, etc. So it's quite, it involves quite a lot of what's it called, quite a lot of mechanisms or functionalities working all together, simply just showing a high score, which one is really interesting. And here I wanted to show, I done a bit I done what's it called, a architecture drawing, just to support what I'm trying to explain here.
Slowly kisses passing by the river.
So this architecture starts by creating, well, all around a high score manager as a script. This high score manager will be responsible to call all the functionalities and managing all the data between various locations. Okay, so it's a main brain. Okay, so the high score manager will be having a high score classes, and this high score class will be representing each high score. So in our current example, it's only 10. It could be all, of course, it could be slide list where we're taking top 10 plus all our, all our friends from Facebook, etc. And like I said, high score will be having all the player information. So we'll have a position, we'll have it's a global, local, name, and of course the score. And the most important, this high score class will have all the UI elements. So the high scores class will own UI element on a screen. It's need to change. So if you say the 6th player now is I don't know, it's A B B C D, then the high score class will know which UI element it's representing and change the name, change the logo, change the score, to represent this UI elements on the screen. To achieve that, the high score manager, when it creates the high scores, it actually needs to communicate with UI manager. And UI manager is actually who can say, hey, I have 10 what's it called, UI templates, and please use them. And high score says, okay, you have 10 lines. If we look really quick into this one, so I'm talking about each line. Yeah, you see score prefab. Yeah, each of them has all the details. So the UI manager pass all this information to high score manager, and he's using this information, will assign each UI element to each high score, and this will be saved as one class. Next, very important, the high score must be saved or uploaded if we address Facebook, etc, etc. So all this must be done, and this is where I want to highlight that this is a mono behavior. Mono behavior happening inside in what's it called in Unity. To save information or read, it must be a static class, not mono behavior. Of course, I'll show all the examples. How this is different, and it's very dead simple actually. But I wanted to showcase to you guys this, a theory behind the scenes. So a static class will be used actually to store the data as a binary in locally on a machine. Okay, so and that's where we have a high score a data class. So the data in the end, that means it's different non mono behavior classes. So high score data will be only having the primate variables, nothing special, nothing unity based variables. We will be not using, because we know more in mono behavior, we'll be not using etc vector free. Instead of vector free, we'll be using free floats, float x, float y, float z, and combination of this three floats, it's actually a vector free. So, and also we can use transform, we cannot use game object, etc. So in this area, then we want to store the data, we'll be storing the data as very primitive variables, strings, ints, floats, lists, arrays, the basics, okay, non-unity variables. And of course, the high score data class will be holding the player information data as a list actually, and it also will have a process of binary read write. So we'll be able to write this in a binary. And yes, it's not most secure thing, especially if you know your data structure. You can very easy to read that one or recompile back. Especially if you're watching this video, you can actually look how I build a binary file, and because of just using this information, you know how to read your zeros and ones, and you know that where you need to start and where to stop, because you know the sequence of all the variables I saved. But just by simple mixing around or adding an additional variable in the player information data will mix the sequence in your binary file, and that will be straight away the challenge to someone to change that. And again, I don't want to go too deep how you can actually hack still the binary, but it is not easy. It's not easy as a JSON file where you can just open with any text editor, and just where you have a field saying high score, you just change the high score to 10 million and you are a winner. Okay. Another more important thing I wanted to address is scenes. As you just saw, we created another scene, and we have a main menu where we have a high scores, etc., etc. But the game will be executed in different scene. In different scene, that means that none of these classes exists, or they actually running, etc. So yes, we can address that with many different ways. Starting with don't destroy and load. So that means certain classes could be not destroyed between scenes and always holding one instance. We can use a player prefs, and we can actually store locally very quick last game information, etc., etc. But because we introducing static class, I wanted to use the same methodology, and we use a static class to communicate between game scene and high score. And the static class is actually exist as a one instance between all the scenes. So it's a class where we can actually create. We can just right here, and let's change it into, I don't know, maybe yellow. Yeah, yellow. You can let's call it a simple way, global class. Yeah, I like this one. Okay, and it's not visible. Yeah, global class. That means that this class doesn't belong to any scene. It will be created as the only one instance. Comparing to other classes, you can have multiple instances every time, for any game object you attached it. So that's object oriented coding. But this class, will have only one instance. We address that class totally different, not giving references. We just literally typing the class name dot something, and it can be accessed from any scene, and is only because it's only one, and the variables inside will be not changing even though we load a different scene. I hope so it makes sense. But when we go deeper into coding, I hope so it makes much more sense what I'm trying to say. At the moment now, we will be using this global class, which one is static class, as a bridge of information between different scenes. And the reason is because when the game is finished, we wanted to save the progress, and then we wanted to consume in this scene to check if the last game, the score is high enough to to replace, what's it called, not replace, but to show on high score table. And actually we need to use the global class also for a game scene, maybe next lesson, but we need to vice versa, because we wanted to showcase some congratulation UI saying that you've done great work and you took us 9th place out of 10. Keep trying and you'll beat your friends, etc. We're not sure now, but the idea is simple. This is a bucket we'll be using, and data is not changing. Okay. So when we clear this theorem, let's jump.
Slowly kisses passing by the river.
First, we start with creating a script of UI manager, because we need to get all the elements first. Okay, so UI manager. UI manager. Oh, and also let's add that it is menu, because I believe we'll have UI manager for game also. So UI manager. And how the UI toolkit works, I wanted to one thing to explain. So we'll create all how to say, all the variables for each element, but how we find them is very simple. We will address these hashtags. So that's why it's very crucial. Not crucial, but it makes your life very easy if you give good names for each your element you added on the screen. So to achieve this one, let's create all the variables we need for this. First of all, I want to introduce to you guys a regions. So hashtag region, and a few lines later, hashtag and region give you a collapsing area. And after region, you can give even a name. So UI elements. So in this way, I can write many lines if I need, and I can just collapse them under UI elements and open and collapse. So that's really makes sometimes your long codes or long variables, lots of variables packed in very nice categories. Working in a big teams, working in a large scale projects, allows you to actually categorize not only your elements, but you can actually do a region for a certain what's it called functions. You can even do a namespace, etc., etc. So regions is step number one when you start, categorize your script in a certain regions. Okay. First of all, we need a public UI document. UI document, and you can see by pressing a UI document, it added Unity Engine UI elements by itself. If your scripting software doesn't do, you need to add this one. Using Unity UI elements. We'll call it UI document. Yeah, and it's a public because we just literally drag and drop. Then we want to have a visual element root. Okay, visual element root is actually this location, the base root of a document where we start, starts everything. So, so stay with me. You'll get a bit in understanding why we have different roots and different other locations. But at the moment, we need a document, a UI document, which is our UI builder scene. We can have multiple of them. And a root is actually the root of all the hierarchy. And using the root, we'll be actually searching for a certain name when we need anything. At the moment, we need a button, and we have a button 1. I'll just call button 1. Oh, no, sorry. Let's call different. Let's say game mode 1, game mode 2, and game mode 3. And that would be all for at the beginning. At the start, we actually need to define where is our root. So root is equal to our UI document dot root visual element. That's the one. So you're getting a root reference. Now, because we have a root, now we can actually address each of them. So we have game mode 1 is equal to root dot query. And you can have a query. Query is a command coming, I think it's coming from SQL, where you can actually write a query requests, SQL queries, where you finding or sorting or identifying a certain data in massive big tables. So Unity is actually using similar approach for UI, where we can actually write a certain query scripting, and because query is very flexible and very smart at the same time, it gives us a lot of options, etc., etc. But that is a massive rabbit hole. We definitely don't need to think too much of different ways or different, even what's it called, different possibilities, options, and functionalities we can use with query. What we need to think about is if we pass to the query only the string, that means that it will be looking through all the hierarchy. If you go in option high score, you see, you go in the high score, we have a high score, then we have a high score border, a visual element, we have a score prefab. Inside of score prefab, we have a score. Inside of the score, we have positions, score symbols, score names, score, etc., etc. So you can see quite a lot of different namings was created at the beginning. We have even ads, which one we'll be addressing later on. Inside in ads, we have a label, and that label doesn't have a tag, but I can double click and say ads label, enter, and now I gave a tag, hashtag. So if we go back to my query, I can just go like this and say ads label, and this root query ads label will return this what's it called, this visual element. That's the one what I was looking for. Of course, you can see it's an error, but let's not think about this one. So next step. First of all, on today's lessons, you'll see, and most coders using just a Q letter, which one is a shortcut for a query, just quicker to to type in, and that's number one. Number two, we have in curly braces because by default, when you go the root query, it returns a visual element, and a visual element is a default option for as a result. What we need to do is to cast, and we have multiple ways to cast. We can say as button. We can do like this. So root query find a hashtag label and return as a button. Of course, this will give it an error because we can see ads label is actually a label, and when you click it, you can actually on the top in inspector you can see label. If I wanted to a button, let's go back to the options. If I click this one, you can see it is a button. Okay, so going back here, that's one option. So let's is another option is forecast. So we can do like this as a button. So you can do a brackets and write a a button. This casting as button or button like this is done by C#, not a function itself. What I'm trying to say is this is a most preferable way to cast. I don't know how to call this brackets. Less more. No, it's not curly brackets. It's not square brackets. But yeah, this less and more symbols and a button after the Q is what documentation of Unity showcasing to use. That's free. Out of 3 options, I'll be using also this one. I cannot explain what exactly difference is casting. I know all the 3 it's all 3 what's it called, all 3 options, and we will be using 2 out of 3 today. With primitives, I'm using with brackets in the front, with queries like this, using this one, and especially if we're finding something, and sometimes it doesn't accept this one, so you using as again. Cannot explain difference between all of them, but yeah, as long you're familiar now also with all the it exists 3 different castings, but what's the difference and which one you sometimes need to use, sorry, I can't explain. I'm just looking in documentation or examples by Unity providing for a certain action I need to complete, and I'm following the documentation or advisable use case, and I actually never raised the question why exactly this one. Okay, so game mode 1. Let's copy this one. And let's do 2, let's do 3, and let's do 2, let's do 3. Now we'll have a problem here because very simple. If we go back to our game, we don't have a game mode 1, 2, or 3, and let's make it. So game mode, copy 1, 2, 3. So now I created the hashtags of a game mode 1, 2, 3. Very short. Some theory back. When we're querying, we can actually look just by hashtags. We can actually look by the type, so we can actually get all the buttons on the screen. We can actually also query, and we can find by the classes. So we have option button class added to all the 3 buttons, and we could all actually find them just saying query, give me all the objects, visual elements as buttons, which has option button class added. But yeah, simple way is just, get them by hashtag because we need them all separate. Okay, next one. What we want to do is actually switch statement. So we want a void a switch, change scene. Yeah, change scene, and we want to take int scene ID, and we want to switch, yeah, scene ID. Okay, so switch is very similar to the if else, etc., and keep going. The difference between switch and if else that the computer need to do comparison with a value and before it goes to the next one. So if the first is false, it'll try the second. If the second is false, then it tries the third one, etc. In a switch statement, it doesn't execute any condition monitoring. It actually jumps into the case matching the value. So scene ID is integer, and we have a case 0. We have a break. Don't forget a break. So let's copy this one. And it's giving you error because we can have cases. Yeah. So then we call this function, and we'll be passing the scene ID as an integer, and we're passing this one into switch. The compiler compares the scene ID, which one is equally, and it jumps into that straight away. So if it's 4, it jumps into 4, executes whatever what is between this semicolon and execute here code, and after a break it will exit the switch statement and continue and continues here after switch statement. Okay, so it's more efficient and it's easier to read when you using switch cases in something like this. Change scene will be called when we press a button. A different button will be passing a different ID. So if I press game mode 1, I ask change scene 1. If I press 2, I say change scene 2. And so on. And we maybe want to even add more buttons for different. Maybe you have 3x3, what's it called? A table where I have 9 different icons with different modes, or maybe even different balls, etc. So and if else will be very complex, become very complex and difficult to read, and this case is very simple, straightforward. Okay, so what we want to do is by the way, default if none of values above matches, this code block will be executed. Okay, so, and we don't have a case 0, by the way. Okay, so let's say you call this function and you pass number 7. Well, number 7 is not 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if it doesn't match with anything, we have a last attempt where we have a default. Default could be, most times it's empty, it's nothing there. There's nothing there, but we can actually capture that one. We can actually say debug .log, and we say invalid scene ID was passed, etc., etc. What we want to do is, first of all, we want to add a library. So using Unity engine, and we want a scene management, and that will allow us to do scene manager dot load scene. You need to pass a name. At the moment, the name is actually the name of a scene you saved. So if I scroll it down, you can see it. Maybe I can do this one. Okay, so you can see it's a game normal. Yeah, lowercase actually. I don't know why it showed. Okay, this showing capital is actually lowercase. So what I need to do, just copy game normal into here, and we just, that's it. Because I don't have another scene, I just copy and build for all the options. So in my case, wherever number I press play mode 1, 2, or 3, it always load the same game normal. Later on, maybe I'll have something, another scene I'm creating, and I just need to change a name of the scene. And number 4, it also doesn't exist, and by default, I wanted to load a main menu. So if some scene ID will be loaded, what's it called? If a certain scene ID will be loaded, which I'm not aware, let's say, like I said, number 7, by default, let's load the main menu. So yeah, okay, and here's the magic happens. So with original UI builder in Unity, when you have a button and you want to assign the action or event on a click, you need to assign the game object, and from a game object you need to choose your script function, and if in any parameters goes, you do this way. Now in the new Unity UI, you assigning event via script. So then I say game mode 1 dot clicked. So by the way, I wanted to show you this one. So clicked, you can see as like lightning. That means it is an action. Okay, system.action. You can see it's, even if I hover the mouse, it says section system.action. So if it's clicked, I want to add a new action, and the new action will be change scene 1. Okay, it's a bit, maybe this syntax is not familiar to you, but of course you should be familiar with this one, where you're saying you adding something. So it's not, you're not saying it's equal, you adding another action. So when the person clicks that one, this function will be called also. Okay, now we just need to repeat the same with game mode 2, go mode 3, and each time we'll say 2 and we'll say 3. So now we just assigned 3 actions to change scene, and each time we will be loading a different, well, it's loading same, but it's will call different code line. Okay, and I think that's all at the moment. We don't have anything else. We'll have a bit more in the future, where we are planning to do some congratulation pop-up windscreen, maybe a video or anything. So UI manager will be taking care of all that stuff. Okay, Next script, especially if we're looking at this one, we have a UI manager. Let's go in a high score manager. Okay, high score manager, or maybe let's go from above, from smaller pieces. So high score. Okay, so in the scripts, create a script, just a high score class. Okay. High score is not opened yet. High score. That's the one. Okay, so we want a visual visual element score root. So why am I saying score root, not root? Very interesting thing is that if you're looking for a name at a root, you will be searching through all the hierarchy. But you can do this query on every single item. So if I'm interested on a scores, if I go in at this point where is a score, I can actually run a query or search for a certain element only starting from this root. So if I go and I find a score, it will be given only this one, because if you look few lines below, let's open like this. Because if I run a find me a score or score name, etc., it will be easier. If I run this query at the very top to find me a score name, it always will return the first one. But I have multiple of them. I have a score name here. I have a score name here. So I actually have 10 score name hashtags. And the difference is only that they belong to different parent, which one is a score. So I need to find all the scores as a list, and then I can link every name. Okay, so score root. What high score will have? It will have a public int of position. It will have a label element of position label. So yes, this high score, if you look back, you will have a player information, but at the same time it has a UI element showing that player information. So if I have information about position, I should have a label to show that position on the screen. Then I have a public string name, and of course straight away we should have a label name label. Okay, then I should to have a public int score. As I think you can guess, I need to have a label score label. Then it will be a different. It will be a public bool local. So if it's true, that's local. If it's false, it's a global. And of course, we need to have a texture 2D for local image and a global image. So we need to save local. I said global. So we need to have a reference to local and a global image for each this high score, because if this high score has UI elements and high score knows the player information and the high score knows that player is global, high score needs to tell the UI element to show a different icon. If a high score knows the player is local, high score tells to UI element to show a different icon. Okay, and next we need a visual element icon. So yes, we need to reference which visual element we need to change, and the high score will say icon is equal to local image, icon is equal to global image, depending local boolean is true or false. Okay, next thing, we now need to start with update. We need a constructor. I think I mentioned before, but each class by default it's constructed and you don't need any parameters. But this is a different case. We want, every time we create a high score, we need to tell our code, if you want to create a high score, these parameters must be given. If you don't give these parameters, it's error. Okay, so to do that one, public, normally you do void and you do the class name. This time we don't have anything void and nothing. It's literally high score. And this is very key. You need to give a same spelling as the class itself. Okay. And this is how it looks a default, what's it called? Default constructor. But we wanted to specify that we're not using default constructor. We want to add more information. So if you want to create a new high score, and we will need to create 10 of them, you need to give very simple things. First of all, you need to give visual element score root. As I said before, each this 10 this what's called elements, each of them have a different score, and we need to know that score. We need to know this score, we need to know this score, because we will be using this score root to run a query research to find all these elements underneath in a hierarchy underneath this score. Okay, so we need to know this score, we need to know this score, we need to know that score, etc., and all 10 times. Okay, so to create a high score, you need to tell us where is the score root. Then, very simple, we want to know a texture 2D. What is a local image? And we want to know texture 2D. What is a global image? Okay, and you can see I'm doing some underscore before the variable, and the main reason is because we have a score root here, so not to get mixed up between them, I just adding underscore. So now you'll see what I mean, because score root, which one is local, is equal to score root underscore score root. Same, local image is equal to local image with underscore, and global image is equal to global image with underscore also. So it's different, global image from this one. Okay. Now, because we find all this stuff, we also need to run some queries. And so our position label should to be equal to score root. Score root dot q. Okay, what we need to run to q, and let's have a look. So I'm looking for position label, which one is literary ID. This is 0, 1. Okay, we go in the score root, we opening, and we have a score position. So yeah, at the moment it's quite easy. Yeah, okay, let's do this one. Let's do so. Can we copy it? No, score position. Okay, yeah, it's still easy. So score position. Okay, score position. It gives an error because this is label. and of course I can do as label and done, or I can do um, as preferred by Unity. Oh, yep, as label, and no problem. But I can see small arrow here. Yes, this element has a score position tag, but it is actually, the label is one level below, which one actually has a text. So if I try to change a text at this parent, it will be not happening because it's actually a visual element. The label in the hierarchy one below is actually the visual element we want. And I done this on purpose when we was creating this one, just purely to show you a few examples, because I could just give a score position tag to this element, and when we run this one, it works perfectly. But I want to give you a bit, what's it called, as example, to showcase how you can actually address a child, and it's different from how you're addressing childs in our hierarchy. Theoretically, it's the same. A script is different. Okay, so no, you can see. Let's delete this one. So let's go as element. So square root query, find the score position. It found. Now we need a child. You can go as a child and children, and you can go like this, very similar like previously, etc., etc. I really don't know the purpose of the children, even though it's a bit buggy, or it doesn't work to me. And if you go in a documentation to read about it, it's actually asking to use element at. And because we know that it's only one element as a children for this visual element, we can just say element at 0. And here we need as label. Okay. Very, very simple. Very simple. Okay. And this will find the score position and then gets a first element and as a label, and it is a label. Okay, that's done. For testing purposes, let's go and say that position label, we want to use, dot text is equal to 99. Okay, nice. I think there's space for position. Okay, I know what we have a problem with the text not adding decimal points, and when it goes into we'll fix this one later. So I know that the different numbers are taking different space, and they will be not lining up very nicely, and mainly because we have flex enabled and percentage. I think instead of that one we need to fix a number of pixels, so we can address this one a bit later, I think. Let me see. Yeah, we'll address this one later on when you have a visual explanation what I mean exactly. So we have a position. Now let's do name label. Name label is equal to similar story, score root dot q. Okay, I like this one. Good start. Let's have a look. So score, I need a name. Score name, and underneath is label. Okay, so score name. So score name. dot element at 0 as label. Nice. Now name label dot text should be a, let's make it AAA and BBB and CCC. Okay. Yeah. Next one, score label. Score label is score root at Q. I can guess it's a score label, but double check that one. So it's a score, and then we have a label, score. That's one. Score element at 0 as label. Okay, and now let's change that one to score label dot text to I don't know, 1111. That's a lot, 11. Just 11. Yeah, just 11. Don't want to accidentally to store the file with 1111 points. Okay. Okay. Now, next one. We wanna to find an icon, which one is score root again, and let's have a double check. And we do have score symbol, and you can see it doesn't have any elements. So this is exactly the file we're looking for. So it's a score symbol, is it? It was symbol. Yeah, symbol. No need, nothing. This is where we no need to cast as visual element, because query by default, if you not define what visual element type you need, by default it returns visual element, and icon is just a simple visual element. Okay, and that's it. We can actually change it also, by the way. So icon dot style dot background image is equal to local image. That's it. That's really simple. So icon style background image is equal to local image, and you can see now we have a world, which one is a global, and like 01 player name here, blah blah blah, and all that should just change. Okay. Okay. We'll need to do a bit more things. So now we're just done with visuals. If you look, HiScore now finds all the UI visuals and makes links and saves locally. So the HiScore as a class knows where every single UI element that your HiScore is responsible to change, it knows references. So all done in this particular way. But the HiScore needs to know about player information also. And we need to have a set, public void set data. So we need to know, we need to be able to set the data for that a particular HiScore. So and to do that, we need a few things. We need int position. Yeah, we need to position. We need string name, and we need a score. Yeah, we need a score, and of course we need a bool. Is it local? Yeah, and all that information will be just stored. So position is equal position, name is equal name, score is equal score. For some reason I need to do this one, and local is equal local. And is it everything and anything else? No, at the moment. So when we create the high score as element, we want to set some default values. Yeah. Not today, not now. I mean today, but not currently, because we want to see this 99 ABB 11 all that stuff before we say set data, because I wanted to call set data, and I want to say your position is just 0. Then you wanna a name, I give you 3 dash. I wanted to say score is 0, and I want to say true is local. Okay, but because we have all this information here, if we do this, it will be overwritten. So we just wanted to not call it at now, for now. Okay, when we set the data, even though it's default the data or is after we play the game, but just because we change the values, it's actually not changing the UI. To change the UI, we need a separate function. So the UI is not linked to the data. The high score is responsible to linking them together. So the player information is changed, the UI element will not change itself. The player information is changed because a high score changed it. So high score is changing the player information, and it also must update UI element. That's what's the purpose of a high score. Okay, so and that's, I think, again, very straightforward. Is a void. Let's make it public just in case we need somewhere else. Void date UI. We don't need nothing here. We just need to say that, you know what, position label dot text is equal actually to position, which one is integer. So we need to say to string. Yeah. Very quick thing, and what's it called? Advice here. If you wanna you wanna a certain number of to have a certain numbers what's it called, a zeros, padding of zeros before your number. So if you wanna to have always to have a 3 digits, so a number 1 will be represented as 001, and number 10 will be presented as 010, and so on and so on. So you always want a padding of zeros to make it 3 digits. So you need to write here and 3, and that will be 000 or 001, etc., etc. If you do and 2, it will be 01, and if you don't do nothing, it will be just 1. Okay, so it's how many your number, how many always must be. Okay, so name label text is name to string. We don't need to string because name is a string. Yeah, you just name. Score label dot text is equal to score the string, and this is where we can actually use that. So let's say that we want to end 5, so always have a 5 digits, even though it will be only 1. If it will be only 1, it will be represented as 00001. Oh, sorry, 1. So makes 5 digits. Okay, and then we have a if local, when we say icon style background local image, else icon style background global image. That's it. Okay, so that's really straightforward, and we want to update a UI every time we set a new what's it called, new data. So update UI. Nice. Okay, and let's not forget to later on to uncomment this one after we test this thing. We just created the high score, which one communicates with UI and communicates with the player information. Sounds like it will be a very long lesson actually. Now let's go to the high score manager. Let's go into create C# high score manager. Okay. Building. Why is it taking so long to build? Okay. Okay. So high score manager wants to know UI manager menu. So just call it UI. Yeah, UI manager. Just I. So we wanted to know where the UI manager is because, like we saw here, the high score manager wants to communicate between this. Next, we want to have a UI document. So we want to have UI document as reference. Not sure yet about this. When we write a code, we'll see if we actually need a reference to save. Then we want to have a visual element root. As previously, we want to have a list of high scores we just created. Yeah. And we call them high scores. And we want a new list of high scores actually. Okay, so it's a new list. Then we want a public. So public textures 2D. Local image and global image. So because high score manager is only single script, regardless how many high scores classes will make, if I make this one. So don't forget, we'll have a multiple classes of them. High scores will have 10 of them. And if we make a public of global and local image, that means somehow we need to drag and drop every every reference to these images. Also, these high scores will be created dynamically on the runtime, so we don't know exactly how many number of them we are creating. Someone will create a UI with the top 3 or top 5. Someone will create a scoring list with top 100, which one I'm looking forward also. So we cannot link high score to the actual image in our assets. What we can do is do high score manager to have a link to the images, and each time it creates a new high score, it says, okay, I'm creating a new high score. Here's the 2 images you need to know about. It's a local image and a global image, and take control and decide which one you want to show on UI element, if it makes sense. Okay, so global image and local image. Nice. For this is a good one. Binary storing. So we need to know the path. We need to know path where we will store our we need to know the path where we will store our data file, if it makes sense. Yeah, data file, and we'll do all that stuff. You know what? Let's leave it binary storing a bit later because we need a lot to do before that. At the beginning, UI manager Yeah, just literally like this. UI manager menu, get component UI manager menu. And let's make it this one clear why it's here. In our normal game hierarchy, let's say this one. In our normal game hierarchy, we have a manager, which will have a, let me think, we will have UI manager and UI manager, and it will have high score manager. So the high score manager will be getting reference of UI manager on the same game object. So if you remember from previous lessons, get component, it's literally saying get component from the same game object of UI manager. So, yep, high score manager says, okay, I'll have a look on the same game object for UI manager menu script. Yeah, I find it because we both are on the same game object. So I know in a high score script, I have now reference of a manager menu. Okay, this is done. And now UI document is actually a UI manager. UI document is equal to UI manager menu dot UI document. And now we're saying the root is equal to UI document dot root visual elements. And I'm thinking all this is a bit overkill, not only because we're storing quite a lot of information, but also it's necessary. So inside an UI manager, our root is not public. Let's make it public, but let's make it hidden from inspector. So we don't need to show in a Unity editor. We just need to be a public. Okay. If that is the case, in score manager, what we can do is say, I'll give you an example. So root is actually equal to get component UI manager menu. Let's get component. Well, straight away the compiler says, okay, what the hell are you doing? Because UI manager menu is not a root you're looking for, but getting this script now out of that script. Let's look in this script. Out of that script, we have a root, a public visual element, a variable, which one is named root. So what I need to do, because it's public, I just do dot root. Now my local root has reference of root from UI manager, and that is equal to the same as this. If you're a bit, if this is confusing, pause for a second and make a note that this 3 lines is the same as this 1 line, and then you can actually investigate or just rewind a few minutes ago, again review what I said about getting and how you navigating between hierarchy, blah blah blah. So that should to make sense. Okay, so we delete that one, and then we can see that we don't need this. Okay, one step at a time. Now that's really interesting. Now we go root and we go for query. Okay, query, and we do score. Okay, and now before we even go forward, as you know, in our UI builder, if you go for a score, you will find 10 of them. Currently, you will find 10 of them. You'll find 1 score here. You'll find 1 score here. A full line with all the player information is hashtag score. So when we do root query task, we can actually take response as a list. At the moment, if we leave like this, it always returns the first element. Okay, but we can do a very cool thing. We can say for each. So now for each element with the hashtag score, we do something. Okay, and what we do, we say element will become element, and we do some magic. Okay, magic. I want to just hold it here. Okay, so for each visual element, which one is named score, we do something. So for each, yeah, and this is the syntax we need to say that each element, visual element, will have a name of element. Geez, guys, how do I say? So to use that, how do so this query will return 10 visual elements, and to be able to address them, I need to give them name. Okay, so if you're familiar with for each syntax, which one we'll address a bit later, that should make sense straight away to you guys. But if you're not very good at using for each, and you're always using for int I is equal 0, then this is maybe confusing to you, because when you're using for each, it's no int I. You don't address in array as integers. Let's give a pause here. So I'll give you a for. Yep. And we can say high score dot count. Yep. So very simple. Very simple. Now each time you wanted to, each time you wanted to get one of the high scores, you say high scores at I. Correct? And now you just get one of the high scores. Yeah. Very dead simple. Okay. For each is a bit different. And if I want to address, you can see for each now, yeah? For each doesn't have I. And because high score is a list, how I can address a member in that list? Very simple. I can address that member in the list by giving a name score, because I just defined that this will be score. So score, and I can do anything. Yeah, it's giving curly braces because I'm not doing anything. But what I'm trying to say is, and for each member in that list, I will give a name score. I'll execute my code with the first member, in that list, name a score. I'll execute my code, and I forget it about it. I'll take a second member, I'll name it score again, and I run my script, and I forget about it. I take the first member from this list, I give a name a score as score, I execute my all the script, and I forget about it, and so on and so on. In here, it's similar, but each time I just saying I want a member from this list at I. So because I is increasing every time, it's 0, 1, 2, blah blah blah. Working with I's, it gives a bit more control, because sometimes you want to skip numbers, you want to do every second, etc, etc. For each is very straightforward. You're taking every member in that list, and each time you run the script, you give the same name. So the member 0 will be named score now. You do script, you do 0, sorry, the member number 2, whatever, will be named score, and you do the script again. So very high level, what's the difference between this one? And because you see the syntax of this for each, you give a name for each member on the list, because this root square query square, we know it will return 10 members. We do for each, and each 10 members will be called element. You know, okay, I can give any name. I can give any name, just literally like this. It's flexible. So all the 10 members will be loop, and each time a separate member will be called any name in this time. Well, give element. I like this one, elements. And what we need to do is just literally say that a high scores is doing add, and we just add lm. Yeah, and of course this will be a problem because the element is, so, but you got now a picture. Well, we'll fix we'll fix this one error before, but we need to understand to summarize this one. So root query score will return all the elements with a hashtag score. We have 10, currently we have 10 of them. Then for each of this element, we call each member lm, and we'll run this script for a first member. Then the query finds a second one, and we call it again lm, and we put in this what's it called, in this function, and we run again. It finds the third element, store again, repeats, etc., etc. Okay, but the high scores is expecting a high score. So what we need to do, we need to call our builder. Remember here we build our constructor. So if you're creating a new high score, you need to pass all these elements. Okay, so high scores is expecting new high score. Of course, new high score is saying, okay, you can't just create a new high score. What you need to do to create new high score, you need to give some information. Okay, what information? We can actually look inside. So we can actually open brackets and says, okay, you need a visual element. Oh, well, we score element. We have just lm. Yep. Now we need a picture of local image. Okay, yeah, we do have a global local image here above. Then we need a global image. Yeah, no problem. We have also, and one bracket. So that's very complex, maybe line, but it goes in the root, looks for all the scores, finds 10 of them. Each of them will be called element, and will be used to create a new, and that element will be used to create a new high score, passing the root, local image, and the global image, and that high score will be added. Okay, and this is actually a point where we can actually test our script, making sure everything is, oh, we need the images. So let's have a look in assets, images. We don't have local and global for some reason, but I can see the local and global images here. So I'm assuming, oh, here we are. So manager, let's rename them, global, local. Okay, so manager, and we'll pass global texture and a local texture. UI manager is waiting for you. UI document, save, UI builder is save, game. Okay, press play. Okay, and of course we have an error. So let's have a look. Manager. New. Oh, okay. So apparently we didn't find any. Or yeah. So apparently, because how it runs in a circle. Sorry, this script builds first before it builds this one, because this needs to build and get this. Because what I'm doing is here, I'm saying the root. Double check. It's 19. So yeah, I'm saying the root get a component of UI manager.root, but that root is actually still what's it called, not defined, if it makes sense. So we need to go back to our original what's it called, original approach. If I have a somewhere, I do have somewhere the list. Okay, yeah. So UI manager menu, UI document. Well, at least no need this one. And yeah, so instead of we getting this one, we say UI manager is equal to this, and the root is equal to UI manager dot UI document dot root visual element. Yeah. Okay. So we're going back to the source. And UI manager, we can change that root. No need to be a public anymore. And we don't need to hide anymore. Okay. Save. Okay. As you can see, all information is 999 and ABC and all that 111 points. But if we go in a high scores and we say set the data, and also we don't need any more of this or this or this or this. So we definitely know that we find all the information. Now we are saying that, okay, set the data, and that will be a default data. So it should become a very blank information. Yeah, zeros and zeros and, oh, it's N. Okay, yep. One more correction. Actually, then it's not N5, it's D5. Is it? For me, N should be numbers and D decimal. But let's have a look. Yeah. So D5. Actually, how many is it padding you want to add? Okay. That's wrap up the first part of the video and possible all the video. I think let's not go too long. It's already a long video, and I'll leave the storing the data and actually using the binary static what's it called approach for our next video. Thanks everyone, whatever time it is, evening or day, watching this boring video and joining us on this journey. So yeah, thanks a lot, and let's keep developing. Happy coding and bye. And